One unexpected day, my 4-year-old son unknowingly revealed my wife's affair. In his innocent way, he casually mentioned that a car, one that belonged to her lover, had been parked in our driveway. When my wife saw me and my in-laws towing the vehicle away, she nearly collapsed from shock. My ex-wife and I had spent 12 years together and shared a son. I had always believed our marriage was solid until a few months ago when everything started to unravel. Working in accounting, I kept a stable schedule, occasionally working overtime when necessary. On weekends, I devoted my time to our son, who had a deep fascination with cars. Last weekend, while taking him to the supermarket, he pointed at a red car and excitedly said he liked it. I didn't think much of it. He admired cars all the time. Later in the parking lot, I noticed a blue version of the same model and asked if he liked that one too. He shook his head. When I asked why, he simply replied that he didn't know. It seemed like typical child behavior, but something about it felt off. My wife didn't own a red car, and no one in my family did either. When we returned home, I casually mentioned the red car to her. She froze for a brief moment before asking me to repeat myself. I didn't realize it then, but she was scrambling to fabricate a lie. Eventually, she claimed that a friend had stopped by to pick something up. I asked if her friend drove a red car. Instantly, her face went pale. Instead of answering, she snapped at me for asking too many questions. I let it slide for a few days, but the thought continued to nag at me. Something didn't add up. Determined to uncover the truth, I started driving past our house after work each day. On Thursday, my worst fears materialized. A red Dodge Charger was parked in our driveway. I sat frozen in my car, struggling to process what I was seeing. My mind raced, searching for explanations. Maybe her brother had a new car. Maybe a friend really had dropped by. Maybe, just maybe, it was someone I knew. But before I could rationalize any further, the front door opened. From a few houses down, I watched as a man stepped outside. He wasn't family. He wasn't a friend. In that instant, I knew my marriage was over. Unable to return to work that day, I drove aimlessly, trying to clear my thoughts. By the time I returned home, I had already made up my mind. The following morning, I stuck to my usual routine, pretending to leave for work. Instead, I parked down the street and waited. If the car wasn't there, I would confront her. If it was, I had a different plan. Sure enough, the red car was parked in my driveway once again. That was all the confirmation I needed. While they were inside, I called a tow truck and reported an unauthorized vehicle on my property. Then I made another call to my in-laws. Within 20 minutes, the tow truck arrived and hauled the car away. About 10 minutes later, her affair partner stepped outside, only to freeze in shock when he realized his car was missing. He frantically scanned the street, completely bewildered, before rushing back inside. Moments later, he reemerged, this time with my wife. Right then, her parent arrived. Perfect timing. That was my cue. I pressed my foot hard on the gas, making sure they all heard the roar of my engine as I sped down the street and pulled into the driveway. All eyes turned toward me. I stepped out and confronted my wife, telling her I knew exactly what had been going on. She immediately broke down in tears. Before I could say another word, our son came outside, his innocent eyes looking up at us, completely unaware of the storm that had just unfolded. I turned to the man my wife had been secretly seeing and told him to leave and go find his car. Then I faced her parents and made it clear that she had been unfaithful for who knows how long. Her mother was livid, more furious than anyone else at that moment. Though her parents tried to calm me down, I had no interest in hearing their attempts to justify the situation. Without another word, I took my son, got in my car, and drove away. A month has passed, and the divorce is finalized. She still visits our son during her designated time, but only because she hasn't secured a place of her own yet. As it turns out, the man she had an affair with was a convicted felon. He eventually landed back in jail for assaulting his ex, and for some reason, she had thought he was worth destroying our marriage over. When the judge learned about his history, her case completely fell apart. Fortunately, I walked away with 50% custody, but that wasn't enough to erase the betrayal. We had built a stable life together. Our home, our family, until she recklessly threw it all away. Once everything settled, I decided to treat myself. A few weeks after the divorce, I went out and purchased a brand new red Dodge Charger. Now, every time she comes over to see our son, she has to walk past that car, parked in the exact same spot where her lover's vehicle once stood before I had it towed. As if that wasn't satisfying enough, last week my new girlfriend answered the door when my ex came by. The look on her face was absolutely priceless. I decided to share this now because of the last text my ex sent me, begging for another chance. She allowed a random man to walk into the life I built and nearly take everything from me. There is no way I would ever consider giving her a second chance. Instead, I reclaimed everything she thought she had control over and made it mine. Yesterday was supposed to be my wedding day. I'm 22 years old and had been with my girlfriend for 5 years. We had everything planned, but she made the decision to sleep with a stripper at her bachelorette party. So I returned the favor with her sister. The night before the wedding, I was out celebrating with my brothers. My best friend managed to get us into a VIP lounge at a club, and we were having a great time drinking and partying. Out of nowhere, I received a call from my fiancée. She told me she loved me, which immediately felt suspicious. It was 2 a.m., and a call like that was unusual. A few minutes later, I got another call, this time from her sister. She asked me to meet her at her hotel because she had something important to tell me. My first thought was that something bad had happened. Maybe she got arrested or was in trouble. I rushed over, only to learn that she had been out drinking with friends when she walked in on my fiancé in another room with one of the strippers. By the time she found them, they were already getting dressed. I was furious. My first instinct was to head back to the club and find someone for revenge. But in my drunken state, a better idea surfaced. Her sister had always been a little too interested in me. I had noticed the way she looked at me for longer than she should have. However, I had been in a committed relationship and never paid much attention to it. But now I was a free man. Casually, I invited her back to my hotel room, telling her I didn't want to drink alone. She hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. As we took the elevator up, I already knew where things were headed. We shared a few more drinks, and she confessed that she was sad I wouldn't be around anymore. I moved in closer, made my move, and that was that. But here's where things took a dramatic turn. My fiancée and I were sharing that hotel room. About an hour later, she walked in and caught me and her sister in bed together. She erupted into a screaming fit, throwing things before storming out. I calmly got up, locked the door behind her, and finished what I started with her sister. The next morning, loud banging on the door woke us up. Her sister took her time gathering her things while I casually went to open it. Standing there was my fiancée, her makeup ruined, still in her club dress from the night before, dark circles under her eyes. She looked completely wrecked. As she watched her sister confidently walk past her, without saying a word, her expression turned to one of utter disbelief. She turned to look at me, but I simply shut the door in her face. I could hear them arguing in the hallway, but I couldn't care less. I went back to bed. Later that day, I woke up to several messages from my family, all asking where I was and if I was okay. I also received a flood of messages from her family, calling me a monster. I was tempted to reply and tell them their daughter's sister was a real monster in bed last night, but I decided to let it go. I spent most of the day just processing everything. The way my life had shifted in a single night was still sinking in. That evening, after stepping out of the shower, I was caught off guard to find my fiancée standing in my hotel room. She still had a key. She immediately started arguing, but before I could throw her out, my intoxicated mind came up with an even better plan. Putting on my most convincing act, I apologized. I told her I regretted everything, that it was her sister's fault, and that I still wanted to be with her. I convinced her that her sister had always been after me and had probably exaggerated what happened at the party. We hugged, we kissed, and we spent one last night together. The moment it was over, I grabbed my car keys, drove home, packed all of her belongings into garbage bags, and tossed them onto the curb. Then I sent her a message telling her to come pick up her trash, and immediately blocked her number. This morning, I woke up to a message from her sister. Apparently, after she left my hotel room, she and my ex had a massive fight. In the heat of the moment, her sister exposed everything to their entire family, admitting that my fiancé had cheated during her bachelorette party. The whole scene erupted in the hotel lobby, with everyone screaming at each other while guests waited to go to church. Someone eventually threatened to call security. I have no idea what happened after that, and honestly, I don't care. I've kept in touch with her sister, though, and let's just say that tonight, a few drinks might lead to an interesting decision. I've been following this forum for a while, reading stories as I try to make sense of my own experience with infidelity. My wife and I have been married for 8 years, together even longer, and we had 2 young children. This past year had been rough. We had our disagreements, but nothing I thought would drive her into someone else's arms. Lately, I had noticed her becoming distant, shutting me out, barely speaking to me. One evening, I decided to confront her directly. She told me she wasn't happy anymore, that the spark was gone. At first, I blamed myself, wondering if I hadn't been attentive enough. But the next day, I happened to glance at a message on her phone that made my stomach drop. Sweet, affectionate words meant for someone else. My gut told me there was more to it, so I started digging. Sure enough, I found months' worth of messages filled with "I love you" and promises of a future together. It crushed me. Instead of confronting her immediately, I took my time. I read through everything, consulted a few attorneys, and made sure I had my options covered. Once I was calm and had a plan, I finally sat her down and asked if she was seeing someone else. At first, she tried to dodge the question, but after a few minutes, she admitted it. It had been going on for 6 months. According to her, it was the deepest emotional connection she had ever had. Right? I laid out my conditions. If there was any chance of salvaging our marriage, she had to cut off all contact immediately. No excuses. The moment I told her to do it in front of me, she became defensive, even angry. She insisted she needed to see him one last time for closure. That was all I needed to hear. I told her if he was that important, she could pack a bag and go be with him. That shut her up real quick, but not before she tried to turn it on me, call me controlling. This morning, she showed me a message she sent him, supposedly ending things. But I don't trust her. My instincts tell me she'll find another way to keep in touch. At this point, I don't even want to fix things. I just want to be able to look my kids in the eye one day and tell them I at least tried. We have marriage counseling tomorrow, but honestly, I think it's a waste of time. It might be better to just go ahead and file for divorce instead of dragging this out any longer. I don't want to make a rash decision because of the kids, but is there really any point in waiting? Some of the responses to my story have stuck with me. One person pointed out something I hadn't even considered. If this man was truly her deepest emotional connection, why did she hesitate when I told her to go be with him? Probably because he never intended to be with her long term. He was happy to sleep with her, but he wouldn't actually take her in, and deep down, she knew it. Another suggestion was to keep records of everything, in case she ever tries to twist the truth when our children are older. I hadn't thought about that before, but it makes perfect sense. One major red flag was her refusal to cut him off in front of me. The fact that she had the audacity to call me controlling when she was the one who shattered our family says everything. I handled the situation calmly, without lashing out, and now she's the one scrambling. I wouldn't be surprised if she's already figuring out a way to contact him again, whether through a burner phone, secret apps, or something else. My gut tells me this isn't over yet.